Did you know that the Bible was not written in English? It was composed over a long period of time in three ancient languages: Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Most of the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, which was the language of the ancient Israelites. But parts of the books of Daniel and Ezra were written in Aramaic, a language related to Hebrew that developed several hundred years before the life of Christ. Aramaic was the common language of the daily life in Judea for people like Jesus and his followers. Hebrew and Aramaic are Semitic languages that are written right to left, and originally they had no vowels, lowercase letters, or spaces, something that makes reading ancient texts very complicated for us today. Now, the New Testament was written in something called Koine Greek, which became the common language in the Eastern Mediterranean world after the reign of Alexander the Great and his massive empire. You've probably heard of Hellenization or Hellenism, the proliferation of Greek art and culture and education, and yes, language. And I would argue that one of the reasons why Christianity began to spread so quickly is that the Greek language was spoken by so many people. The writers of the New Testament could write their letters and their gospels in Greek and be assured that the most amount of people would be able to read them and hear them because that's the language they spoke. What all of this means is that if you want to read and study the Bible in its original form, you have to learn three ancient languages. Now, that's something I would encourage you to do, but it's really difficult. Take it from me, I have studied ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. But thankfully, for centuries, biblical scholars and church leaders have been translating the Bible from those ancient languages into the more common languages of their day. For example, take Greek, right? When Greek became a huge language a couple thousand years ago, they decided to translate the Old Testament, or the Hebrew Bible, into Greek. That was a translation known as the Septuagint, and it would likely have been one of the translations of the Bible that Jesus and his friends and followers were reading from. A few hundred years later, when Latin became a major language in the world, a man named Jerome translated the entire Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, into Latin so that the most amount of people could actually read and study the Bible in a language that they understood. And then in the late 1300s, English translations of the Bible started to pop up. And as English has become a major language for the last several hundred years, more and more translation efforts are happening in English so that we can read the Bible in the language that we actually speak and are familiar with every single day. So there you have it, a little bit of information about the original languages of the Bible: ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. When you read and study the Bible today in English or another modern language, you're reading the work of scholars who've translated from those ancient languages into modern ones. I talk about all of this in my book, Bible Translations for Everyone. In fact, I have a dedicated chapter in here all about that translation process. You should definitely check this out. And I have a series of videos right here on my channel where I talk about lots of different topics in the world of Bible translation. So I'll put links to both my book and that video series in this video's description. You should definitely check it out. If you have any thoughts or questions, please share those in the comments. And if you haven't already, click that like button and definitely subscribe to my channel if you like content like this. My goal is to help you find a Bible that's right for you and apply it to your life. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.